Welcome to part 2 of the game development beginner course. In this video, we're going to be looking at basics of Unity, using the Unity engine, Unity editor, how to navigate, and some basics physics. So the first thing you're going to want to know is the Unity editor. How do you actually navigate through it? What are the different things called? Okay, so in our 2D game that we created, we have what's called a scene that's been created. Okay, you can see inside of the project panel right here, if you go to scenes, it will have a sample scene, which is Unity has created this. A scene is like a certain level or a certain screen or anything. So for example, if we go to the Among Us game, which is created in Unity, they have a scene for the title, like when you first load up. They have a scene for Polis, they have a scene for skill, they have a scene for when you die, all types of this, okay? And scenes are basically allow you to do multiple type of stuff like that. So in our scene, we have what's called a main camera, which is what the player that's playing your game is going to see. Okay, and to see what this camera is looking at, we can head over to the game view at the top here, and you'll see that we actually have a scene view of just gray. Okay, and this background is correlated to this right side. So you can see every time I click on some type of game component inside of the hierarchy tab, on the right side, the inspector will pop up with some information, okay? And each one of these collapsible items are called a game component, which you can put on any type of game object, and it will get those properties. So in our scene, we want to actually get a player, okay? So we have the inspector, we have the project, and we have the hierarchy. Just to note that you guys can actually move around these tabs all around you want. I can move this one here, move this one here, move this one over here, all types of stuff like that. But just remember that you can always go back to the top here, click on layout, click on default, and it will just refresh to the default layout. Okay, so let's actually get a ground going, okay, because we're making a 2D game, right? So we're going to have Y position, which is up and down, and X position, which is left and right. So we're just going to make a ground quickly, okay? And to do that, you're going to want to right click, click on 2D object, go to sprites, and then click on square, okay? And you'll see that what I'm doing right now is scrolling my mouse in and out to drag around the scene view. I can hit Alt and drag around the screen. If I want to select stuff, I'll just drag with my mouse, and I can also right click to drag around the screen view. So I'm going to zoom in really quickly. Another cool hotkey you can use is when you have something selected, like the square, if you hit F, it will center and what's called focus into it. Okay, but right now our little square here is at the 0, 0 position. You can see at the top right here, we're inside of the transform component, we have a position of x0, y0. Obviously, the z does not matter in this case because we are playing in a 2D plane, but you can always remember to go up here, click on 2D, and it actually does change to 3D. But we'll stay back in 2D for now. So inside this, what we can do is we can actually grab onto the square and drag it around, okay? You can use what's called the rect tool and have these little arrows here which actually enlarge it, all types of stuff. I like to keep it very, very organized. So in here, inside the scale, I'm going to set the X position to, let's say, 20, and the X scale to 20, and the Y scale to, let's say, 3. Okay. And then I'm going to set the, I'm going to reset the position so it's in the center. And to do that, I'm going to right click on transform, click on reset position, and you'll see that it does move down here. But I do not want it to be in the middle of my screen. I want it to be at the bottom because it's going to be the ground, okay? Really quickly, I'm going to change the game object so it's called ground so we can keep stuff organized, okay? So we're going to select the ground object, click on the move tool, and use this green little arrow so it's only locked on the Y position, so I don't accidentally move it off of the X. And I think that around here is a pretty good place, okay? But you can see that it kind of matches this gray background, so I'm going to change the color of the square by going onto color and changing it to something else. Okay, so I'm going to go to green, drag this black circle over down to a little darker green maybe. We'll go something like this, okay? Just to keep the contrast, maybe a little bit lighter. I like that, okay? So right now, we can click on play, which is actually going to run our game, okay? Say if we had code, which we will write in next video, this code would run on this play button. But because we only have the ground and the background, it's not really doing anything, okay? We're going to need a player, because every game has a player. So to do that, we're going to create another 2D object. So right click on the hierarchy, 2D object, sprites, and then click on square. And actually, I'm going to create a circle here. So our player is going to be a circle. So I'm going to rename the player, or the game object, to player. And I'm going to right click on the transform, reset, and it's going to go to the center of the screen. I'm going to move the ball a little bit to the left, so we're at a starting point of the bottom left of the camera, right above the ground. But if you see, if we click on play, what's happening is it's not really moving, okay? And you can see if I move this to the top, it's not interacting with gravity. There's no physics on this, right? It's just a sprite. It's just some type of texture on the screen. Okay, something to note, when you're in play mode like this, and say you edit your scene, so I move the ground here and move the ball here, okay, if I get out of play mode, you'll see that everything resets back to what I was inside of what's called editor mode, which is what you're doing right now. Okay, just a reminder, when you're in play mode, your changes will not save. Okay, so I move this here, and let's just drag this back to here. Click on play, you'll see it drags right back. Okay, so what do we need right now? We need physics. Okay, I want the ball to drop and hit the ground. And to do that, Unity has a built-in physics system. And to use that physics system, we're going to go into the player game object. And inside of the inspector, we're going to hit add component. And inside of here, we're going to do what's called a rigid body 2D, because we're going to be working in 2D. Okay, so rigid body 2D. And what this does is this basically adds physics. It adds mass, it adds drag, gravity, friction, all types of that. So now when we hit play, it should fall relative to the thing. But you'll see that it actually did go through the ground. Okay. So this rigid body 2D component right here, you'll see that it has a gravity scale of 1, which this is the scale, or this is how fast gravity on Earth is, which is 9.81 meters per second. So if you want to have double gravity, you can just click on play and it will drop twice as fast. Okay, but we're going to stick to 1 just for now. And let's fix the issue with the player actually falling through the ground. So I'm going to see, I'm going to drag this back to here, and you'll see that the player actually falls. So if we zoom out far enough, you'll see the player falling here over and over and over. But you can see obviously in the game view, there's nothing here because it's only stuck to one position. Okay, so the issue is, again, the game only thinks that you are just a sprite. The ground is just a sprite. It's just background. That's what it thinks right now. Okay, but we have to tell it. We have to tell it that we want it to interact with the ball. And to do that, what we're going to do is going to go to ground object, go to the inspector, click on add component, and then we're going to do what's called a box collider 2D. Okay, once we add this box collider, you'll see a little ground outline pop up here. This is the hitbox of the thing. But you'll see that still player goes through the ground. What's the issue? Well, that's because we did not add a collider or a hitbox to the player. All we did was add physics. We just added gravity, and that was it. Okay, and to add a collider to the player, I'm going to go to the player, go to add components, and type in circle collider 2D, because we are working with a circle here. And now, when we click on play, you'll see when the ball drops, it's going to hit the ground and stop, which is perfect. Okay, so you see if I drag this back up, it falls and hits the ground. Drag it back up, it falls, hits the ground. Drag it back up, it falls, hits the ground. Perfect. Okay, so there's a bunch of different things you can do. Is if we actually, I'm going to show you something. If we put this player back to the ground here, and I duplicate the player, which to do that, you'll click on the game object that you want to duplicate, hit Control D, and it will duplicate. So now I'm highlighting over player extra, and if I actually click play, you'll see that the balls hit each other and they actually start rolling, okay, which is perfect. This one you'll see the rotation on the z-axis is actually changing. This one as well, just not as fast. But you'll see that we have that, and I'm going to get out of that. So these actual boxes or players can collide with each other. So for example, if we had, I don't know, we put this here and put this in the middle, and let's make little walls on the left and right of it so they can't fall off the thing. So to do that, I'm going to go right click on the hierarchy, 2D object, go to sprites, go to square, and I want to make a wall. So I'm going to put it on the left of this, use the rect tool, and just increase the size of the wall. Okay, but remember, this is just a sprite right now, meaning I'm going to rename this to wall left, meaning we cannot actually interact until we add a box collider. So make sure you add a box collider if you want stuff to correctly interact with each other. So I'm actually going to move this ball on top of the other one. So when it hits, this should roll. Hits down, rolls. Let me actually make this a little bit quicker. So it hits, or actually we'll do this. We'll go on this. The ball is going to go on the right, and that one's going to the left. So you'll see it rolls and actually hits the wall and stops, while this one continuously rolls until either friction makes it stop or there's not enough things. So right now there's no friction just because the ground does not have a friction thing. We always have to specify everything. Everything you have to specify, whether you want friction, gravity, box colliders, render, text, UI, all these types of stuff. You have to give it what you need. One last thing to remember is
So here's a step-by-step.
One last thing to remember is we actually want it to want it to interact with the ground. So I want to show you guys something. If you have this, okay, if you have this ball and you have it, this one right here, we can see there's a game component called sprite renderer, which this actually renders to the screen. Okay, this is what gets shown on the screen. So if we actually turn this off, you'll see that the player still exists. You'll see a green outline here, but you can see the game, it's invisible. But it is still going to act like it's there because of, hold on, let me go back to 2D, because of the hitbox it has, okay? So if we open up the player, you'll see there's a green hitbox. So when I click on play, you'll see that it invisibly just, oh my god, just moves out the way. And you'll see it is actually rolling. It's just not being shown on the screen. The ball is there. It's just is invisible. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the basics of Unity. Here are basics physics, basic editor things, and a lot of different stuff. So you can change the color of all of these. I'm going to turn back on the sprite renderer. I'm going to change the color of this player. I'm going to remove the player and the wall so we can set up for the next video. I'm going to set the player to red so it's easy to look at, move it to the left side, and I want you guys to kind of challenge yourself and want you to see what you can create with the knowledge you've just learned. Make some platforms, make multiple balls and just have them like hit each other, and like this one rolls in down this one, and you can make a little like marble roller coaster if you guys ever made one of those, and just really mess with it, because that's the best way to learn, is you go and do it and make mistakes and learn and have fun and all that type of stuff. But in the next video, we're going to be learning some Unity C#, okay, because Unity C# is a little bit different than the normal C#, but we're going to be learning basically a little programming with Unity. So I will see you guys there, and good luck.